Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to dive into this incredible story from the Old Testament. It's about a highly celebrated commander who seemed to have it all. We're talking power, respect, victory, but he was hiding a secret problem that all his money and influence just couldn't fix.
So let me ask you this, just to get us started. What if the biggest, most complicated problem in your life had a solution that was so simple, so straightforward, that your own pride was the only thing stopping you from accepting it? That question is really the heart of our story today.
All right, let's set the scene. We're introduced to this guy, Naaman. Now, he's the commander of the army of Aram, which, by the way, was a nation that was often an enemy of Israel.
So this isn't just some soldier. He's the top dog, the highest-ranking military official in a seriously mighty empire.
The guy was a big deal. The king loved him, the whole nation looked up to him, for all the battles he'd won. And here's a fascinating little detail. The original text says that it was actually the Lord who had given him these victories, which is just a cool reminder that God's plan is at work even in nations that don't really acknowledge him.
But, and this is a huge but, behind all that success, behind the shiny armor and the public praise, was a devastating secret. Naaman had leprosy, and that was a problem that no amount of power or wealth could possibly fix.
Okay, so this is super important to get. In this story, leprosy isn't just a physical disease. It's a powerful metaphor for that hidden brokenness we all deal with, right? The shame, the pride, the secret struggles that make us feel isolated from other people and even from God.
So with this huge, unsolvable problem, where does the first little ray of hope come from? Well, you might think it's from a king or another general or some wise old advisor, but you'd be wrong.
Hope comes from the most unlikely person you can imagine, a young girl from Israel. She'd been captured in a raid and was now a slave in Naaman's house. I mean, look at this contrast. You've got the great, powerful, respected commander on one side and this nameless, powerless servant girl on the other. It's a perfect picture of one of the story's main themes. God loves to work through the humble and the overlooked.
And get this, despite everything that's happened to her, this young girl speaks up with this incredible, simple faith. And that one sentence, it sets this entire amazing story in motion.
So, Naaman hears this and thinks, okay, worth a shot. But being a man who's used to solving problems with force and influence, well, he decides to handle it his own way.
He treats this deeply spiritual problem like it's some kind of political deal. He gets a letter from his king, and he loads up on treasure. We're talking hundreds of pounds of silver and gold. He basically expects to just buy his cure.
And his plan? It fails spectacularly. The king of Israel completely freaks out. He thinks it's some kind of political trap to start a war. It just goes to show you that all the human power, status, and wealth in the world, it's completely useless for a problem like this.
Well, word of the king's panic gets to the prophet Elisha. And Elisha just says, hey, calm down, send him to me. So Naaman rolls up to Elisha's little humble home with all his horses and chariots, totally expecting the red carpet treatment.
In his mind, a great man like him deserved a great big ceremony. He had this whole picture of how it would go down. Elisha would come out, do some grand dramatic ritual, call on his God, wave his hand over him. You get the idea.
But that is not what happens. Elisha doesn't even come outside. He just sends a messenger, a low-ranking servant, out with a ridiculously simple, almost insulting instruction.
Naaman is furious. His pride is completely wounded. The solution is too simple, the messenger is too lowly, and the Jordan River is just, well, a muddy river. He's like, are you kidding me? The rivers back home are way better than this. And he just turns around, ready to leave in a rage. Just as Naaman is about to storm off and completely abandon his one chance for healing, another unlikely hero steps in. It's one of his own servants. And he so humbly just reasons with him. He basically says, sir, if the prophet had asked you to do something huge and difficult, you would have done it in a heartbeat, right? So why not do this little thing? All he said was, wash and be cleansed. This is the turning point. The moment Naaman has to choose between his pride and his life. And in that moment, faced with that simple, undeniable logic from his servant, Naaman, he makes a choice. He swallows his pride. He chooses simple, humble obedience. He goes down to that muddy river, even though he doesn't get it, even though it probably feels completely foolish. And the result? Oh, it's a total transformation. His skin is restored, completely clean, like a little boy's.
You see, the cure wasn't in the water itself. It was in his simple willingness to obey the command.
So, what's the big takeaway for us from this ancient story? It's just this beautiful picture of the good news, of the gospel itself. True healing isn't something we earn through big, impressive deeds. It's a simple invitation. Just trust and receive. It's about humbly accepting a gift that we could never, ever deserve on our own.
And that leaves us with a final thought to chew on. We all have our own kind of leprosy, areas of pride, or hurt, or shame. And maybe, just maybe, the path to healing is way simpler than we're making it. What if all it takes is letting go of our own expectations and just taking that first humble step?